It started with something small. A plain suitcase left quietly beside a petrol station on the M1 motorway. No panic, no rush. Just a man filling his tank, nodding toward a black saloon car, and driving off like nothing happened. Moments later, the suitcase was gone, swallowed by the car that slipped into traffic without a trace. The man didn't look like a criminal. He didn't run, didn't hide. He paid in cash, kept his composure, and headed north. But when police stopped that same vehicle outside Sheffield, the suitcase had vanished. Only one thing was clear. The money trail it left behind was massive. That trail didn't lead to one gang or one city. It stretched across Britain, Glasgow, Birmingham, Manchester, London, and far beyond the country's borders to Dubai, Moscow, and other places few investigators had even expected. According to the National Crime Agency, this was one of the most advanced money laundering systems the UK had ever seen. But there were no drug lords flashing gold watches or hackers hiding behind screens. The people moving this fortune looked ordinary. Couriers, social media personalities, and front company operators moving silent streams of cash through crypto wallets. No violence, no threats. Just quiet, professional transfers, turning dirty drug money into clean currency that eventually fed the Russian underworld. This is the story of how UK street money became a financial weapon, used by global criminal networks, and how investigators finally exposed it. It didn't begin with a gunfight or a high-speed chase. It began with one calm man driving north of London on a weekday morning. When officers stopped his car, it was supposed to be routine. Instead, they uncovered £335,000 in cash, neatly packed, sealed tight, hidden inside compartments not meant for storage. No drugs, no weapons, no strange gadgets, just money. His name was Farad Sedi. He had no criminal record, no gang ties, no reason to be suspicious. And yet, he said almost nothing. Didn't fight, didn't explain. That silence caught the NCA's attention. Something about him didn't fit the pattern of a low-level courier. He was a thread, and once agents started pulling, an entire network began to unravel. The serial numbers on those seized notes told their own story. They had passed through flats in East London, garages in Birmingham, warehouses in Glasgow. Every bundle connected to drug money. But instead of being recycled back into street operations, the cash was vanishing, completely disappearing from the visible economy. When investigators mapped the movement, the pattern looked more like logistics than crime. Each handoff was perfectly timed, almost corporate in precision. No single gang controlled it. No turf wars, no hierarchy. It was lean, efficient, and built for one goal: speed. A money laundering chain disguised as a supply network. By the time Farad Sedi was arrested, millions had already been moved without notice. The takedown didn't stop the flow. It only showed how refined the system really was. And at the center of it all were two names almost no one had heard before: Smart and TGR. They didn't look like traditional crime syndicates. Their couriers weren't gang members. No masks, no coded tattoos. Just duffel bags, GPS points, and silence. Some were students, others delivery drivers, each paid to move bags full of cash across the country. Together, they transported over £100 million in clean banknotes. After Sedi's arrest, the NCA began tracing every route. What they uncovered wasn't a gang. It was a grid. More than 50 collection and drop-off points scattered across Britain. Motorway service stations, car parks, lay-bys, short-term rentals, Each acted as a node in the chain. One driver would pick up a holdall in Birmingham and deliver it to a hotel room in Cardiff. Another would collect a bag in Manchester and pass it off in Watford, the same day. No calls, no explanations, no questions asked. One of these couriers was Semyon Kukov, the son of a Russian oil executive living in the UK. On paper, he was just a student. In reality, he moved nearly £12 million in cash over 10 weeks. Always fast, always quiet. Another, Vladimir Jeksha, moved close to £9 million before he was finally caught. Neither man revealed anything during interrogation. Both insisted they were simply drivers. Then there was Fawad Saeed, who shifted £15.6 million before police intercepted him. Like the others, he had no violent history, just a clean record and a car full of secrets. The brilliance of the system lay in its invisibility. No courier ever saw the full route. No drop-off point was reused. The cars changed, the bags changed. Only the precision stayed the same. Every step looked ordinary. Every participant replaceable. It wasn't meant to draw attention. It was meant to disappear. And disappear it did, into something far more complex. Because the couriers were only the first stage. Once the cash left their hands, it entered a digital maze, an online world of shell companies, fake consultancies, and crypto wallets. Here, the real laundering began. Behind the scenes operated two separate networks, Smart and TGR, each with distinct roles but a shared goal: to erase the trail of dirty money. Smart was founded by Ekaterina Jadonova, a Russian-born businesswoman based in Dubai. TGR was run by George Rossi, a UK-born financier working between Moscow and Dubai's tax-free zones. SMART specialized in cybercrime proceeds. TGR handled the drug money. And both were frighteningly efficient. When agents followed the cash trail from Sedi and Kukov, every road ended at one of these two organizations. Some funds were held in vaults. Others were already converted into crypto assets. The method was simple, but incredibly powerful. It started with the conversion step. Physical cash, tens of millions collected from drug deals, was exchanged for Tether USDT, a stablecoin tied to the US dollar. Unlike Bitcoin, its price stayed steady. It moved fast, avoided detection, and left almost no paper trail. Within hours, wallets were created, used, and closed. Transactions bounced across borders. Glasgow to Dubai, Dubai to Moscow, invisible to most banks and regulators. Through a network of shell companies, many registered in the UAE, the laundered funds were cycled again, swapped for real-world assets, real estate, or investments. On paper, everything appeared legitimate, but every transaction washed another layer of dirty money clean. By the time it reached client accounts in Russia, Spain, or the Gulf, it had no visible link to UK crime. The cash from Britain's streets had been reborn, sanitized, repurposed, and reinvested in global networks. On paper, Smart and TGR looked like ordinary finance consultancies. Slick websites, glass-fronted addresses, and professional bios. Behind those facades, however, lay a highly efficient laundering machine, capable of turning dirty cash into legitimate investments with a few clicks. Smart was the brainchild of Ekaterina Jadonova, a polished, globe-trotting crypto figure who spoke at conferences from Dubai to Barcelona. Publicly, she sold digital finance expertise. Privately, her network converted proceeds from ransomware and large-scale fraud into clean assets. Cyber gangs linked to major attacks quietly routed funds through her ecosystem, where the cash was converted to crypto, layered, and redistributed across jurisdictions. Even after US sanctions in 2023 froze some of her Dubai holdings, her system continued to move money. TGR operated alongside SMART, but focused on physical cash, primarily drug money. Led by George Rossi, a Britain-born financier who relocated to Moscow, TGR used UAE-registered shell companies such as TGR Partners Ltd and TGR DWC LLC to funnel and legitimize funds. Rossi kept a low profile, communicating through intermediaries while coordinating property purchases and investments that cleaned illicit proceeds. Rather than compete, SMART and TGR formed a resilient partnership. SMART handled fast crypto conversion and layering. TGR provided the real-world legitimization via shell firms and investments. Wallets, escrow accounts, and shell companies were shared or swapped when needed. A network designed with redundancy so no single disruption could collapse it. As investigators dug deeper, the picture darkened. Wallets tied to UK drug money were also linked to state-affiliated Russian interests. Documents from Operation Dest revealed that the same routes laundering narcotics profits were being used to channel funds to sanctioned Russian media and oligarch-linked holdings. TGR-linked entities were shown to buy property in London and Cyprus using money traced back to laundering wallets, some of which also carried ransomware receipts, effectively blending criminal and political finance. The scope widened further when evidence surfaced connecting the Kinahan cartel in Dublin. Under international pressure, Kinahan associates in Manchester, Liverpool, and Birmingham began routing cash into the same SMART/TGR channels, mixing drug proceeds with ransomware and oligarch capital. Intermediary messages pointed to shared facilitators, overlapping escrow wallets, and joint property deals in Spain and the Gulf, signaling a criminal ecosystem where gangs, hackers, and state-linked actors all used the same tools. Faced with this tangled transnational network, the NCA reached out to international partners. The FBI, DEA, Europol, France, and Ireland joined a task force to dismantle what would become Operation Destabilize, a near 3-year effort to expose a system that had quietly operated in plain sight. By the time investigators connected the dots, it was clear. This wasn't just money laundering. It was global, political, and deeply entrenched. The same system that cleaned cash for drug gangs was also funding sanctioned oligarchs and Russian media networks. This wasn't only about crime anymore. It was about control and the silent economy that powered it. The response had to be just as massive. In late 2023, the UK's National Crime Agency launched Operation Destabilize, a multi-nation strike built on 3 years of surveillance, encrypted intercepts, and digital tracing. It united the FBI, DEA, Europol, France's financial police, and Ireland's Gardaí, a rare alliance for a threat too complex for one country alone. What began with a suitcase on the M1 had now become a 5-nation crackdown. Raids swept across London, Manchester, Glasgow, and Birmingham, targeting couriers, crypto brokers, and middlemen. In France, Yekaterina Jadonova, the architect behind SMART, was arrested near Bordeaux. In Ireland, crypto wallets tied to Kinahan associates were seized. And in Dubai, authorities froze multiple TGR-linked companies, cutting off the empire's core. Over 80 arrests followed. Authorities seized more than £20 million in assets, from hard cash to crypto wallets and luxury properties. Dozens of shell firms were erased from registries. The NCA called it the largest laundering takedown in British history. But the real collapse came afterward, in banks, courts, and international ledgers. Each blocked transaction exposed another layer of corruption. By early 2024, the US Treasury's OFAC had issued new sanctions naming Smart, TGR, and their founders directly. Jadanova's Dubai properties were seized. Her shell firms struck off. Rossi's empire, spread across Moscow and Dubai, was dismantled. Over £150 million in traced transfers frozen. His associates, Elena Chinin and Andres Bradens, were also blacklisted. Even Vladimir Magomedov, the Russian investor funneling money into UK real estate, saw his assets frozen. For the first time, a system built to protect both criminals and elites was finally breaking. Every frozen account pulled another thread from the web, stretching from Cyprus to Gibraltar and the Balkans beyond. The digital empire was crumbling in full view. Meanwhile, the people who carried the cash, the couriers, were the first to stand trial. Their silence couldn't save them. Farad Sedi, the calm driver who unknowingly sparked the case, got 4 years and 4 months. Semyon Kukov, who moved over £12 million, received 5. Vladimir Jeksha was sentenced to nearly 6. Even smaller players like Artus Loganovs in Ireland faced prison terms. But the real masterminds were harder to pin down. Jadanova remained in custody in France, facing extradition. Rossi had vanished, last seen in Dubai before his assets were seized. He's now wanted across multiple countries. Even with the arrests and sanctions, investigators admitted one uncomfortable truth: parts of the system might still be alive. Still, Operation Destabilize changed everything. It didn't just catch criminals, it dismantled an underground economy. Drug traffickers lost their lifeline, cyber gangs lost their cleaners, and sanctioned elites lost their pipelines. For the first time in years, billions in illegal wealth were trapped in digital limbo. But the victory came with a warning. Copycat systems were already appearing, faster, smarter, powered by AI to hide money deeper in the blockchain. The war against digital laundering wasn't ending, it was evolving. As the dust settled, one question lingered. Did investigators truly end the network, or just scratch the surface of something far larger? A web connecting gangs, hackers, and governments, all moving silent money through invisible channels. The story that began with a single bag beside a motorway ended up revealing the world's hidden economy. Because money never disappears, it moves, reshaping power, silently. What's your take? Were the sentences enough, or just the surface of a deeper system? Share your thoughts below and subscribe for more real crime stories that show how power truly moves, quietly and in plain sight.